What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics YouTube channel. And thank you guys for tuning in to our first episode of Inside the BCFC. It is week one, folks. Finally here. The long off season is over, and we have some football to talk about and look forward to in the British Columbia Football Conference. And we're looking forward to talking about it on a weekly basis, as I've been teasing on our season previews and some of our content on the Canadian Football Fanatics Instagram account. Going to be doing and partnering with the conference this upcoming season to be giving you guys and presenting a weekly show, generating some content, conversation, excitement around the conference on a weekly basis where, we'll talk and recap kind of some of the games from the following week, as well as be joined by a guest once a week. So whether it's a coach or a player, we'll be joined by one guest from one of the 7 teams. We will be making sure that we do not leave any of the teams out, making sure that through the 12-week regular season, every team is making sure that they have a guest being featured. And then, yeah, we'll have some fun. As I mentioned, just kind of trying to get some conversation generating, excitement going for the conference, and wanting to give the athletes a much-deserved spotlight here, to kind of, let fans get to know them a little bit more, as well as just kind of in a relaxed setting, just talk some ball and have some fun. And that's kind of the idea on a weekly basis. So if you guys have been enjoying all of our content, because it has been hot and heavy, not only the BCFC stuff, but the BC Lions side of things, where we'll have some news regarding that in a little bit. But BC Lions previews, post game show, still have a ton of other outside of BCFC type of content, but this is where we're going to ratchet up the BCFC content here on the channel from now on. Still working out some of the details with our partnership with the conference. So before we officially announce anything, still waiting to, I guess you could say, cross our T's, dot our I's, and kind of figure out the official, I guess, partnership before we get into that and launch that. So as of now, as you can see, and as you, I guess, heard, the weekly show is going to be taking place on the Canadian Football Fanatics until further notice. Stuff changes, as I mentioned, you guys will know via our social media platforms. So making sure you guys are following us, us being the Canadian Football Fanatics, and of course the BC Football Conference. Of course, you guys can find us on Instagram at Canadian Football Fanatics, and you guys can find us also on Twitter at underscore CFNX over on Twitter as well. So if you guys are tuning in today over on YouTube, enjoying our content lately and enjoying today's episode, please be sure to leave a like on the video. Please be sure to leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear some of your guys' feedback, as well as how you guys are feeling about week one in the BCFC, as we are special as well. The 2 other conference yet to kick off. I believe they don't kick off till August, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't checked actually yet. I believe a couple weeks ago, maybe one of the previews actually I mentioned and talked about when do the PFC and OFC kick off, and didn't get around to checking the official date of kickoff. But the BCFC a few weeks ahead of the other conferences, and just gets the juices, gets the excitement going for myself being a BCFC fan, being a football fan in general, being a Canadian football fanatic, some might say. Just excited for that time of year, and especially in the BCFC, especially for myself growing up around the BCFC. I remember, 8, 9-year-old Cole getting dropped off at Caledonia Park back in the day to, back then I was actually lucky enough to be the team's water boy, ball boy at points in time too for, national championship runs, multiple BCFC runs, was able to be on the sideline around a lot of those great teams back in the day. Of course, stuck around in Nanaimo, played my junior football for the Vancouver Island Raiders from 2017 to 2019. Just, I guess, a small little background for those that maybe aren't aware on me. And then just kind of wanting to, the day and age we live in, wanting to get into the media space, loving talking about football. Decided to start the podcast about 2-3 years ago to date. And then with my love of the BCFC, wanting to help out and grow the game as much as I can. And, I've said it multiple times before, of just wanting to leave the game in a better place than where we found it. I think stuff like this, spotlighting the athletes, giving them the much deserved, attention for a lot of these talented athletes that go under the radar a lot of the time. So when talking about talented athletes, of course, as I mentioned, folks, liking the video, commenting down below, Most importantly, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we go live or upload a video like this one. So speaking about special athletes, today's special athlete, a special guest that we're going to be joined by is Okanagan Sun running back Gerren Hardisty. Gerren is a familiar face to the BCFC as he spent 3 seasons down in Langford playing for the Westshore Rebels, his hometown Westshore Rebels. A Belmont grad, went on to play for the Rebels, went on to be a BCFC All-Star, CJFL All-Canadian, ended up getting a scholarship to go out to the University of York. Kind of that pipeline that was the Dexter Janke pipeline to York. When Dexter took that job out in York, took a lot of his personnel from Westshore, rightfully so, right? A lot of guys that are familiar with his scheme, his standards, etc. Taking them to York to build his foundation was a smart move on his part, and Gerren was definitely one of them. Gerren, the quick 1-year stint in the university route, he ends up coming back to junior. I'm curious that I'm gonna have to ask him if he's going into his 5th and final year of eligibility or if it's his 4th year of eligibility in the CJFL. But returning back to the CJFL, a very talented running back, one of the most talented in the country, if not the best back in the country when all things are said and done after this season, especially with some of those hogs that are going to be in front of him this upcoming season. I know Coach Travis Miller raved about them and watching that offensive line work in front of one Gerren Hardisty this upcoming season. So Gerren's going to join us here in a matter of moments. But before we get to Gerren, before we get to the rest of the show, of course, wanting to remind you guys about some of the stuff that we already have out there, including our coaches poll that we just dropped. By the time you guys are listening to this, yesterday we dropped it on the Canadian Football Fanatics Instagram account, as well as you guys can actually find it on the CJFL Instagram account, collabed with us, which was pretty cool, where we polled all 7 head coaches across the BCFC. Were able to get their ballots of how they thought the conference shook up 1 through 7, and did it into a point system. So if you got a first place vote on one of the ballots, you got 7 points. If you got a second place vote, you got 6 points. If you got third, you got 5 points. Fourth, 4 points. Third, so on and so forth. Whatever it may be, until no, if you were last, you got only 1 point. So we tallied all those up and put them into one big power rankings that was basically voted on by the head coaches across the conference, and we made it 100% anonymous, so no coaches knew the ballots, knew the results, and was an interesting one. We had Okanagan up front, we had Valley in 2, we had the Westshore Rebels at number 3, and then we actually had a tie for the 4th spot with the Langley Rams and VI Raiders tied with 32 points. We actually had to come down to a second tiebreaker, as the tiebreaker originally was just going to be first place votes. They both had 1 each, so we went to who had the most votes, who had the higher votes amongst the 2 teams more often throughout the 7 votes. I believe it was Langley that outvoted them 4 to 7 in the ballot. So they got the tiebreaker advantage and hopped over them in the power rankings. So Langley sat at 4, VI at 5, Prince George at 6, and Kamloops at 7. So a lot of good parity. Westshore to VI, the 3 to 5 spot, 1 point separating those teams. Very close race, and just shows why the BCFC is the best conference, top to bottom, throughout the Canadian Junior Football League. So when talking about that, we have some other stuff to get, tease maybe that when talking about our deal with the BCFC, we have some other content ideas, particularly brewing, I guess you could say, behind the scenes, thinking about doing kind of like a similar players to watch style content that we've been doing for the CFL and CFL preseason, where we'll do, BCFC players to watch for, say, there's 3 games per week. We'll do 1 per game where we focus on a offensive and defensive player per team, so 4 total players, and we'll put that out in 3 different posts, as I mentioned, for 1 post per game. So like for this weekend, we'll put out a post for Okie at Langley. We'll put out another post for Westshore at PG, and then another one for VI at Broncos. Just 2 players to watch for each team on offense and defense. And then some other stuff. Looking forward to possibly doing some other content behind the scenes. So if you guys have any ideas, would like to see anything on the channel, please be sure to let us know in the comments down below. Would love to get your guys' feedback, and definitely taking all things into consideration, as well as tagging the BCFC in the comments, letting them know how excited you guys are, as well as bugging them to. I was going to say finally follow us, but they did actually follow us by the time you guys were listening to us last night. Started sharing some of our content on their platform as well. So greatly appreciated. Once again, just shout out to actually I guess not once again, but appreciative of the BCFC. Shout out to President of the BCFC, Tyler McLaren, for all his time and chatting on the phone with me and kind of mapping this season out, I guess you could say, and hearing some of my inputs and thoughts and stuff like that. So really looking forward to this season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I believe we rambled for enough time, folks. We have some guests to get to. We have some games to talk about. So hopefully you guys are excited as I am to get into the season, get continuing inside the BCFC episode 1 throughout the season. Of course, we'll have 12 weeks throughout the season, and then into playoffs as well. We'll continue the show. So looking forward to talking BCFC on a weekly basis throughout the 2025 season. But first of all, we're going to be joined by Okanagan Sun running back Gerren Hardisty. Let's send it over to the interview with Gerren right now. Alrighty, fanatics. Joining me now is Okanagan Sun running back Gerren Hardisty. Gerren, thanks for joining me, buddy. How you doing?
Gerren. No
Oh, I
worries.
should have I should have asked before we got into this because I actually
No
have
worries.
heard both ways of Gerren. We've heard Gerren. Should have asked actually. Did a little bit of digging before the interview. Actually, had to hit up big bro and chat a little bit about. Said we're having you on and stuff like that. So I should have asked before we going on, Gerren.
Nice,
But
nice. No
once
worries.
once again, brother, just appreciate your time. Appreciate you jumping on here. I know it's busy times right now with the season. Week 1 is here, so I know practice and trying to get a little bit of food into you and PT and all that stuff, buddy. So very appreciative of your time once again. But
Of
just wanted to
course.
kind of try to give some of you guys a little bit of a spotlight, like I was talking to you before we press play here. Just trying to chop it up as well. Nothing crazy, just chatting some ball, chatting a little bit about life, kind of your experiences throughout your football journey and stuff like that. So as we mentioned, beautiful Kelowna, man. How has it been up there, kind of adapting that lifestyle? Obviously, an island boy, coming back from your little stint at university last year. But how has it been up there in Kelowna, man? Enjoying the beautiful weather and whatnot.
It's nice. It's a new city, it's new to me, but I've been here since February working with the guys. So, they've been really welcoming. The city's been sick. The lake's right there. I'm pretty close to the beach, lake there. So I've had a lot of fun out here, man.
Yeah, it's hard to complain, especially maybe I guess you can complain of how hot it is, especially this time of year, man, when that temperature gets up and remember or thinking back to some of those days coming up to Okanagan playing at the Apple Bowl and July and August and it starts to heat up there. But as you mentioned, man, the lake's right there and stuff like that. It's truly hard to complain living up in Kelowna there. It's a beautiful time. So as you mentioned, you've been up there for a little bit of time now, dating back to February. How's it been just getting onto the field, acclimating yourself into the team and stuff like that? And obviously with spring camp being, I know you guys only had it a few months ago, but now with main camp, you're really getting to see kind of a true picture of the team and stuff like that. How has that been for you, kind of getting familiar with your teammates?
It's been nice. All the guys have been really welcoming. Plenty of respect both ways. So I'm just kind of here ready to work. They know my mission. I got 1 year left, so they're gonna get all I got, and yeah, we're ready to kind of do something special. Focus week in, week out. But our end goal. So we're just working to that week in, week out, and I think we have a special group here, so it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, buddy. Like I was saying, I wanted to also, opposed to just chatting ball and stuff like that, also kind of let the fans and let the people get to know a little bit about yourself and
Yeah,
me having the familiarity with you and playing the Raiders with your brother and stuff like that. Obviously, hearing of there's little brother coming up and stuff like that. I'm curious, kind of if you could maybe chat a little bit about kind of like what family means to you. I know your dad is very supportive and means a lot to you and is always there for you, especially your brother as well, kind of being an example and stuff like that. But just general kind of how much does your family mean to you as well?
honestly, families meant the most to me. Like, moms drove me to football practice since I was 7 years old, so they try to make every game they can, along with some grandparents, brothers. Now I got young sisters, young brothers. Family's just growing like crazy. So it's uh, it's nice, man. I have a supportive cast, supportive family that just wishes me the best in everything I do, and honestly, just couldn't be more grateful.
Being on the sidelines for some of your games and stuff like that. I know that dad's usually there and the family's usually there and they show out a lot at your games. How was that for you for, kind of being, I guess, leaving the nest for the first time in a sense last year at York. And I know, as I mentioned, how much your dad supports and stuff like that. I'm sure the phone calls after the game and stuff like that, chatting it down and stuff like that, I'm sure were awesome, but maybe not the same. How was that, kind of a transition for yourself of maybe not being at home and kind of going through something like that?
Definitely for sure, but York kind of got me acclimated to that aspect, just being across the country. So I'm kind of used to just taking the phone calls, taking the FaceTimes, chatting it up a couple of days a week when I can, when they're free, when I'm free, and just making sure, I'm still connected with them, still know what's going on, and vice versa.
As I mentioned, I had to hit up Big Bro when I mentioned that we were sitting down and chopping it up, and of course the competitiveness in him was kind of the first question. I'm sure that what you would expect of who maybe is the best athlete in the family and stuff like that. But just talk about in all seriousness. I'm sure both you guys would think it's each other, but just the like the saying, right, of like iron sharpens iron. I'm sure little brother, you're kind of that day of wanting to beat him, whether it's at hoops in the backyard or football, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, though, I'm sure it kind of sharpened you. It drove you to the player you are today. And at the end of the day, too, he wants to see you thrive, like in days like this, right? Where I'm sure he's watching your game and being like, bro, you could have had a bigger run here, there, that kind of stuff. So talk a bit about who's the maybe the better athlete in the family, as well as kind of that bond and relationship you guys have.
Yeah, me and Javon, we're pretty close. He's doing his thing in an IMO now. He's done ball, but growing up, I looked up to the guy. I watched his games growing up. I watched him at Mount Doug ball out, win that BC championship there in grade 12, and just seeing him kind of grow as a man too has kind of inspired me to be a better man. We've always battled little boxing matches, gloves on. Like you said, backyard hoops, volleyball in the summer. We're a competitive family, and Javon's always pushed me, but he's a kind guy. I'm a bit of a rambunctious fellow, so I try to get the best of him because I'm the younger cat. 5 years, so um, we've had a lot of fun growing up. He's pushed me, and I think I've pushed him as well. We got to face off that one year, 2021, my rookie year. He made some plays on me. I made a couple plays on him. So the debate's ongoing.
I love it. Great answer. I 100% agree that not only you pushed him, he pushed you. That rivalry for sure is something special and only kind of unique to brothers for sure. And when mentioning it there, I'm curious of he obviously goes to Mount Doug. You end up not wanting to follow brother's footsteps. I want to create my own path going to Belmont. Same, maybe kind of similar thought process of big brother goes to VI and maybe have that kind of possibility. You decide what, I want to go to kind of stay at home with the Westshore Rebels, create my path here. When talking about kind of maybe as I mentioned, Belmont, was there any other kind of possibilities in your mind, or kind of maybe take us through that thought process of yourself, a younger Gerren going through that process? Was it kind of wanting to stay at home, or was Big Bro getting to you at all of wanting to come up to
So
VI at all?
yeah, no, actually, that's an interesting story because I played with a lot of the Mount Doug guys with the Sandwich Wolverines when I was younger. So I knew all the guys growing up, and I played with them, played against them in the fall. So I knew all those guys going into the year, and I actually started my grade 9 at Royal Bay. So I was still playing community ball with a lot of Claremont boys, some of the Mount Doug boys that didn't play there. I was playing with the Victoria Wildcats. So that was kind of my first high school year of ball. And then I kind of dad moved to Langford, which is Belmont. Belmont's in Langford, and mom lives out there as well. So it was kind of just like, do I want to commute all that way every day to go to school and whatnot? So that was a factor. So I kind of made the jump in grade 10, transferred to Belmont. Um, just kind of did my thing from there on, grade 10, 11, 12. Obviously, COVID hit, so we didn't really get that grade 12 year. But yeah, it's just that was kind of the thought process there.
So take us to, you end up staying at home, as I mentioned, playing with the Westshore Rebels, and as you said, it was a cool little thing for you to play against Big Bro and stuff like that. But I think the thing with being an instant impact like the way that you were, obviously it was no guarantee that you were able to be on the field with in those opportunities, right? A youngster like that could have very easily, not been active on game day, stuff like that. You made yourself very valuable as a year one player in the CJFL, being able to, return special teams wise, all that sort of stuff. So how was that for you to kind of be a rookie, making the instant impact that you were able to? As I mentioned as well, the versatility that comes with you not only as a running back. I feel like you're kind of like that almost scat back, as well as being able to come out of the backfield, be a weapon catching the ball as well, and the returning side of things that I think a lot of people forget.
Yeah, I mean, as a first year guy too, you kind of got to know your role, you know. So, you got to prove yourself. You know, I know I'm an athlete. I trust my abilities, but they needed me to ball out on special teams, go block field goals, go hunt on punt, get some kick returns, and ultimately land up at receiver because we had a fifth year guy, Zach Lubin. At the time, we had I think a third year, second year guy, Brox Comia in the backfield. So we had some backs, and I waited my turn. You know, just stuck it out, put my work in, and just ultimately just kind of take pride in my role. And I did. I think I flourished in that role. I did pretty well. So the next year, they kind of gave me the reins at back, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, it's that's a great message I think to younger kids that are like, they come in and they want everything right now. And obviously there is, cases like yourself, right, that can find a way to a role on game days, but there's also like, you have 5 years. There is the okay of like coming in, maybe you have to develop for a year or two, right? Of the I guess the kind of maturity of yourself of being able to understand that knowing your role and just excelling in your role, which you were able to do that season. So when talking about West Shore, you stay there from 21 to I believe 23.
Yep.
Talk about that 2023 season where you guys, end up going to the Canadian Bowl, end up falling just short, I believe 17-10 to the Hilltops. But phenomenal season for you, not only on the field, off the field. BCFC All-Star, CJFL All-Canadian. I believe you just cracked 1,000 yard marks rushing. Phenomenal season for yourself and kind of almost trampolined yourself into that York offer and stuff like that. So talk a bit about that season as well as the skilled position players that you guys were playing with. Kieran and Cairo and obviously T in the backfield with you there as well. So talk a bit about that 2023 season and how much fun that was for you guys.
It was such a fun year, man. Team was like family. We had talent all around, as you said, Kieran, Cairo, T, um, Kwame, Zion. You know, we were loaded with talent. Even Malik in the backfield. So our O line was solid up front. Like we just had a really all around blessed team, and we had a bunch of guys who I think the key was we really put in the work the off season before. So after 22 going into 23, we really bought into the weight room, to the running, to the off season program, and my athleticism flew, my strength flew, um, and I think that was kind of my biggest off season, biggest leap, and kind of made me realize what it takes to really take that next step. And after I knew that, we just try to do that every season going forward in the off season. But that year was especially special because we just had a special group of guys who, we had great chemistry, we're really close, and it was just a great competition with the defense. We had ballers lined up. I don't even got to name them all. There, everybody knows. But yeah, so it was just competition week in, week out. Offense talking stuff, defense talking back, and it just made everyone better. And ultimately, Dexter was a big role. He his leadership was great. He showed us what needs to be done, how we're going to do it, and we kind of trusted under his wing, and we just worked every week and eventually made it. Slightly fell short, obviously, but now I've been there. I know what it takes, and I think I can kind of help the Sun here now. And they've been here. They were there last year, so we kind of both know what it feels like to be on the losing end of a national championship. So kind of gives you a bigger chip on your shoulder.
You talked about trust there, Gerren, with Coach Janke, and obviously for people that aren't aware, you end up, finishing that 2023 season, and that next season you end up going with Coach Janke, and a lot of I was mentioning before you got on here of, kind of smartfully on Coach Janke's part, right, taking a lot of the West Shore guys to establish his culture, establish his standard, right, and you end up following him. Talk a bit about Coach Janke and kind of you already were a little bit there, I guess, of the off season preparation that comes with kind of being able to have a good season, but just the I guess the not only on the field, I guess, but the young men that he's also creating as well, right? Setting an example. You talked about York and feeling comfortable there, across the country away from your family, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with Coach Janke and everything he set up there in York. So just talk about a little bit about Coach Janke and kind of I guess what he means to your career.
Yeah, man, he's done nothing but help me the whole time, all the way through, even to when he was just, I believe maybe the DC in 22, or he was helping out the team for a minute. But he's been around since I was at Belmont, right? He was there helping the DBs there when I was playing DB and running back at Belmont. So I recognized his face the whole way, and then as he kind of took the reins, he's just really been nothing but nice to me, man. I can't complain. Like, just instilled a lot of great values, a lot of discipline. Just really showing that off the field really matters and translates to on the field. And like you said, just being a better man. I can go on and on, but great guy, great coach, and nothing but the best for him in New York.
All right. Speaking about York, let's talk about your experience there of going to be a university athlete, and I'm sure everything that comes with that, right? I know, CJFL, it's maybe a little bit different, right? Where maybe you have a 9 to 5 job, and then you kind of have to go to practice, handle your business there. But university, it's a lot different. You got workouts scheduled, right? And you got classes to go to and stuff like that. You got to also pass those classes. But there is also a lot of fun that comes with university football, I'm sure. With you guys, especially kind of turning around the program last year, being able to have fun, I'm sure, after a lot of some of the victories and stuff like that, road trips on the bus, experiencing kind of some of the resources that come with university football and stuff like that. How was your experience being able to go to University of York? And as you said, you kind of started off by saying you had nothing but good things to say, and they were very supportive and stuff like that. So just how was your experience?
It was great. I think it was a much needed experience. It's unlucky that it didn't quite work out for reasons XYZ. You're not going to get into that, but it was a fun experience, man. Just the thrill of kind of waking up, got that workout, and then even main camp, boom, 3 a days, 2 a days, in the sun, um, just all the film, the little nuances, and just really learning a little bit more complex playbook in Rick Walters that year from Alberta the year before. So it was a good experience on and off the field. You got to grind in classes, make sure you get all your work done, or else you're not eligible. So it's just a lot of work, and I think these young players need to really know that you just got to be ready for it and you got to want it. Because if you don't want it bad enough, you're not going to succeed. So yeah, I had a great time. I wanted to play running back, but we got some guys injured, banged up. I got moved out to receiver, and like I said, just like my first year in CJ, I kind of had to adjust, know my role, play within it. So I returned and played H receiver. So kind of had to learn a little bit more of the receiving game, understand zones better, understand defenses better, schemes, stuff like that. So I think it just made me a better player overall, and I'm a little more versatile now. So yeah, nothing but good things about that experience. It just didn't end up working out for me.
Yeah, well said, buddy. Well said. I'm curious. The easy question, or the most, I guess, common question, is kind of the comparison. I don't ask this to kind of maybe, I guess, like wanting you to kind of come to the CJFL side. I want your 100% honest answer, but I kind
Yeah,
of more often than not find a lot of guys end up kind of coming to, there's not too much of a difference. Maybe some of the depth of kind of playing from the CJFL. My question would kind of be did you notice, I guess, much of a gap in terms of the skill level between U Sports and CJFL? Like I mentioned, all the guys that I kind of asked that question come back to, the skill level is pretty similar, but as I mentioned, the depth kind of doesn't drop off as much as opposed to junior, right? Where a lot of maybe teams kind of struggle after, that certain, maybe 20 player mark, where U Sports teams, there's kind of, like you said, guys like you that are having to find ways to try to get on the field, right? When you're a BCFC All-Star and stuff like that. So how did you find kind of the skill difference, or maybe if it wasn't much of a difference?
yeah, no, honestly, I think it kind of just depends on the CJFL. I feel like fluctuates, right? You have a surplus of fifth-year guys around the league, and then they kind of will decline as they all leave. And I think 2021, when COVID happened the year before, so we had some 23-year-olds in the league, and I think that upped the level as well in the CJ my rookie year. So the CJ kind of, I feel like, fluctuates year in, year out, just based on the given talent and age in the league at that time. But I felt like the OUA was a little more consistent across the board. The trenches were massive, man. Wow. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, in my opinion. Just the trenches were unreal in the special teams. But and just the guys overall are smarter, a little bit faster, a little stronger. The size is a little more there. But like you said, there's plenty of talent with CJ. That's no knock to the CJ, but it's a step above. It's U Sport ball, so it is a step above.
Yeah, great answer once again, Gerren, for sure. I think the talent does fluctuate for sure from year to year and stuff like that. So definitely well thought out. So when talking about now, your current team, the Okanagan Sun, going to put on the orange and brown for the first time, trading in the red for some orange. So How excited have you been, man? I'm sure you, like I said, you've been on the field and stuff like that, but to be around the talent level that's around Okanagan right now, right? Not only on, the offensive side of the ball right now, especially in the trenches. I know Coach Miller was very excited to rave about watching you run behind some of their offensive line right now up there, but defensively, man, I mean, I'll ask you a little bit about Bond in a little bit, but defensively, you guys are loaded on that side as well. So, how excited are you to kind of just watch your team work, I guess, this year?
Man, I'm excited. I'm sick of going against our defense every day. So I just, these guys they're flying around under BD's defense, making play after play, and we're making them better. They're making us better week in, week out. So, um, yeah, man, we're loaded in terms of just guys that just want to work and buy in, and Coach Trav's kind of done a good job at just, kind of setting his standard for the year and just for his team, his organization. So, yeah, it's just always a battle. Like you said, you got Bond back there, absolute baller, just suited up for the BC Lions this past weekend. And you got guys like Grayson, got guys like Phil, got guys like Tariq, Kojo, Laurier, Jarvion, Jaquinas on the D line, Isaiah. So, yeah, this defense is, man, it's looking great. Our offense, we're loaded. We got Timmy, Duke, Daniel, Kerntoff, Zach, and receivers, Chewy Thomas, Jordan, Sam Melanson, Tyler Craver. And actually we got some backs too, man. We're balling out in the backfield. So I'm just happy with our guys. We got a dope group of guys, and I think it's just gonna be a really fun year.
When talking about Bond, you also had you were lucky enough to play with Passant as well, right? Who's playing in the CFL right now. How cool is that to kind of be able to, put on the pad just like those guys, but as well, I would imagine gives you motivation, right? I would imagine maybe that's kind of somewhat of the goal this season, right? Of, there is, eyes on you, there is spotlight on you, right? Especially with your reputation already being able to have production in the conference, right? Well, I'm sure Tyler McLaren, I'm sure Neil McAvoy, the guys that kind of keep an eye on these side of things, right? They're keeping an eye on Gerren Hardisty this year, right? Running the football. How cool is that for you to kind of give you a little bit of, I don't want to maybe say hope, because I feel like that kind of puts it as like a far off dream, but how, I guess, much does that motivate you to kind of like be like, man, if I take care of my business, I do my thing in the weight room, I do my thing on the field, like these opportunities are available out there, right? Especially like in our conference, right? Of like seeing a guy like Andrew Harris kind of do it, right? And maybe he's somewhat of a rare example, right? But there is that example right out there, right? And especially with your maturity of kind of knowing and understanding of like if I get into a CFL training camp, I'm just trying to do my job, do my role, whether it's on kick return, kick off, whatever it may be. So how motivating is that for you to kind of see examples of that around you?
It's motivation for sure, but nothing's given. It's always earned. So you just gotta stay working, keep your head down. Can't let all this media get to you. Oh, Gerren Hardisty this, Gerren Hardisty that. Like I've done it before, and I just gotta continue working and do it again this year. And whatever happens, happens. But I'm just in it for the ride. So.
When talking about that, Jaron, I'm curious to ask of, you kind of took a year off almost of being like that workhorse back, and I was curious of kind of how much pride do you take in that of like, you're maybe for those that aren't aware, like you're a little bit more of a smaller statured back, but I know that season in 23, you were their workhorse back. You were by far, RB1. They rode you a lot that season, right? Especially with the talent levels they had in the receiving core, right? And especially in CFL game, right, too, where they could very much kind of shy away from that game, and especially in junior, right, where you were truly a workhorse back. They relied on kind of establishing that run game to open up Passant, Barry, and stuff like that down the field. Do you take pride in that of like being a smaller guy, being kind of being able to handle your business in the off season, put on your muscle, being able to kind of grind in a sense, and being able to kind of like have those tough days in the off season and be able to kind of survive the long 12-week season that is the BCFC?
No, for sure. I mean, like you said, the offense, I feel like the run complements the pass just as much as the pass complements the run. So, it goes both ways. But when it was my turn to go, I'm just make sure I'm on go. I'm 100%. I take pride in being the energizer. Like I said in my previous thing with the CJ. I'm just my biggest strength, honestly, is my relentless will to win. I want to do anything it takes to win. I will do anything it takes to win, and I'll thrive in that role, and I'll make sure I do it to the best of my ability.
last one here for you, Gerren. And appreciate you once again, buddy. I
Yeah,
know
of
it's getting
course.
late,
No,
and
no worries.
it's a work week for the first time, buddy. It's the first work week of the season, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's exciting times. But last one, I'm sure it kind of goes two ways with people, right? Maybe some people are very big goal oriented people, and some people aren't as much. So I'm curious of maybe some goals, expectations you maybe have of yourself this season. I'm sure first and foremost is team above everything else. So starting with that Column Cup, working your way up to obviously if a national semi's in there, and then most importantly, obviously bringing home that Canadian Bowl back to the BC Football Conference. So is there any other goals outside of like I mentioned, the team goals, winning? But for yourself, whether it's maybe being a teammate or, maybe mentoring some of the younger backs or something like that. But any kind of goals, expectations for yourself?
Yeah, I wanna pass all my knowledge on to this younger back group that's here as well with me. I got some dope guys in the backfield, Ethan Belo, KJ, um, Tisdale, Keenan. So I got some guys that I just want to, instill everything that I've learned, and they can take what they take and don't what they don't, because I do believe every back is different. There's no one way to play running back, in my opinion. It's a very versatile position, and every guy kind of has their own flavor, if you may. So I'm just trying to kind of just be the best teammate I can, and I'm a fifth year guy, so I kind of got to be a leader, and just yeah, just try to teach as much as I can to the younger generation. So that's kind of my biggest goal this year. The accolades come later, but we're just worried about Langley this week. VI then the week after, and just focus week by week. Put our work in, and just where it rides us, it rides us.
Yeah, great answer, Jaron. Ton of maturity, buddy. But I possibly might have lied. I got to throw in one more, as you kind of just got my wheel spinning there, and I'm curious. You did talk about kind of all backs are different and kind of having to take a few things. Is there any maybe running backs you kind of looked up to as a kid and maybe kind of modeled your game to? I see a smile that comes to your face, and as you already kind of said, right, taking bits and pieces, I'm sure, of backs and stuff like that. Is there any kind of backs that maybe come to mind, or maybe just that you model your game after, or kind of even enjoying watching?
Yeah, not necessarily modeled my game, but grew up. I got a Barry Sanders jersey hanging up. That's my goat at running back. I loved watching that guy's highlights, man. Obviously, I wasn't really born to watch him play live or anything, but just watching his highlights growing up, seeing how he attacks blind spots, how he sets up holes for himself, the way he just attacks half the man, half the defender. Just there's different aspects. I also love Marshawn Lynch. I'm a Seahawks fan, so just the way he just he'll put his head down and just fucking run. Oh, I'm sorry, you might have to cut that out,
Oh,
but
you're okay, buddy. You're okay.
yeah, so it's just there's so many different backs I could go on and on. I watch so many, but those two are really inspired me honestly the most.
I'm glad to hear that you're a Seahawks fan. I don't know if I could handle another Hardisty brother as a Chiefs fan. I already hear enough from
Oh
Javon
man, I
on that
know.
behalf. So, once again, though, buddy, appreciate your time once again. I know it's a busy time of the year with football and stuff like that, and trying to rest and recover before you have to go do it all again the next day, man. And once again, just appreciate your time. Wishing you guys best of luck this upcoming season, Jared.
Yeah, thank you. What you're doing is honestly amazing. Bringing more eyes to the BCFC and CJFL. So nothing but thanks to you. It's kind of dope to get some player action on here. So yeah, thank you, and keep it up. And I'm just excited for the season.
Awesome. Okanagan Sun running back Gerren Hardisty. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks, that went well. Big shout out once again to Gerren Hardisty, Okanagan Sun running back, for joining me tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys did enjoy that, please be sure to leave a like down below, comment down below, maybe leave Gerren a little message wishing him best of luck this season, maybe how much you enjoyed. I really enjoyed that. As I mentioned during the interview, I kind of very familiar with kind of, I guess, who Gerren was growing up, playing with his brother Javon from 2017 to 2019. Started to hear about, I have a little brother going to Belmont. He's going to be, playing either university or in the CJFL one day, and kind of starting to, follow him along, see G start to repost some of his highlight videos and stuff like that. And a very mature kid from when I got from that interview, and had definitely has his head on his shoulders right. So by no surprise, obviously, with all the support from his family, brothers, dad, mom, all the good stuff, all the good people behind the scenes. Once again, big shout out to Gerren, as I know it's a busy time of year when after practice, especially for a running back, is might have had the luxury, especially not only as the starting quarterback, you're not going to get touched, but as the backup quarterback, you're also not going to get touched throughout a practice majority of the time or throughout the majority of the season. It's quite different for 99% of other players outside of kicker and quarterback. Not too much contact throughout practice. Obviously, what comes on game day is a little bit different for the quarterbacks. They go through quite a bit, but I would imagine he's pretty sore going through not only practice, finishing up camp and stuff like that last week, and trying to as I said, rest, recover, get some dinner in him before doing it all over again tomorrow for what should be day one for everybody in the BCFC as they begin preparation for their week one matchup, which is where we will turn to now, as we will somewhat preview. We got about 20-ish minutes. Normally, we'll be recording this and kind of recapping the things that have went on, had happened in the games. So we'll kind of go game by game. And this week, of course, we don't have any games to talk about, so we'll kind of somewhat preview, quickly give our thoughts, kind of just basically go on a little bit of a kind of tangent here on both teams in the matchup, on the matchup itself. And we'll kind of basically go through the next 20 minutes talking about 3 games, and then we'll get out of here. And that'll be episode 1 of Inside the BCFC. As I was saying, liking the video, comment down below. Let us know if you guys are commenting down below how much you guys are enjoying Inside the BCFC episode numero 1. Stay tuned for episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, etc. as we will be here all season long talking all things British Columbia Football Conference. So, as I said, now we'll kind of shift our focus to down below. If you guys, hopefully that's coming in as clear for you guys. Let us know if you guys would like to maybe change or tweak the layout down below in our little bit of a ticker. If it's too jumbled, let us know. We can kind of try to fix that for you guys so it's a little bit more easier to read. But as you guys can see, Okanagan Sun at Langley Rams, 4 p.m. kickoff. Westshore Rebels at Prince George Kodiak, 6 p.m. kickoff. And VI Raiders at Kamloops Broncos, 6 p.m. kickoff with the Valley Huskers on a week 1 bye. That is how things start in the BCFC this week. So comment down below, of course. Lastly, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we go live or upload a video like this one here. Of course, you guys can find us on our social media platforms at Canadian Football Fanatics on Instagram, as well as @_CF Fanatics on Twitter as well. So let's get into it. Before we get into it, actually, we're going to give a big shout out to, when talking about this matchup, bringing in ties to the Okanagan Sun. I guess I don't know if I can say current, but I believe I can, because I would think at some point be playing this season. But current Okanagan Sun linebacker Jacob Bond, big time shout out, congratulations to him as he suited up in his first professional regular season game for the BC Lions this past Sunday when they defeated the Edmonton Elks 32-14 in Edmonton. Jacob was listed as the team's fullback, spent some time on special teams as well as the short yardage package for the Lions on Sunday. Got his feet wet with some pro experience. Now, why I hesitate to say current Okanagan Sun linebacker, because until he is officially cut off the roster or taken off the roster once again, he cannot play junior. He is ineligible to play in the CJFL as long as he is on the BC Lions active roster. So I believe it should be a pretty simple transaction of just sending him back down to the practice roster. He's eligible once again to play junior. But if he remains on the active roster, I believe from everything we've been heard, if that is wrong, Tyler, we're coming for you, because that's what you sent to me over text. Hopefully I didn't read that incorrectly. But I believe from all the information that I have gathered, Jacob, as long as he stays on the active roster, which is a positive, which is a great thing for Jacob, especially for his development and stuff like that, is awesome to get his feet wet and professional. But I think best case scenario for Jacob is to kind of go back and forth if necessary for the BC Lions, but mostly to stay on the Lions practice roster for this season and go absolutely dominate, terrorize the BCFC this season. bring home a Cullen Cup, bring home a Canadian Bowl, and then hit the ground running next offseason into BC Lions training camp. And hopefully you stick on the roster next season. I think that's the best case scenario for Jacob. But who knows? Maybe they need him on the roster and he sticks around for the full season and kind of burns up, unfortunately, this year of eligibility for the Okanagan Sun for BCFC fans. But if you are BCFC fans, you're likely a BC resident. So turn on the BC Lions games during the week, and you guys should be able to see Jacob Bond still suiting it up in some capacity in the orange. I know it's maybe not the orange and brown, orange and black, orange and gray, smoke gray. Still a little tint of orange. So big time shout out. Congratulations to Okanagan Sun linebacker Jacob Bond for making his pro debut last Sunday for the BC Lions. So let's talk about the matchup. Okanagan Sun versus Langley Rams. When talking about the Okanagan Sun coming into this matchup, the consensus #1 team coming into this season, you could maybe even argue in the country. St. Clair obviously comes in with that title of being defending national champions, probably rightfully so, until proven otherwise. Going into the season, best team maybe on paper or whatever you want to call it, just with reputation. The Okanagan Sun should be right there in that conversation with the offseason they had, the returning players that they're bringing back, Travis Miller at head coach, and where they're strong at. They're strong in the trenches, right? I talked about what Coach Miller was raving about when we had him on here to have the season preview. He talked about the excitement, and he was excited, folks, to watch Gerren Hardisty run behind that big offensive line, the recruits that they're bringing in, the returners that they had bringing back, the defensive line, the returners that they were bringing, the recruits that they were bringing to the fold for the first time. I think they're going to be pretty strong on both sides of the line of scrimmage once again. Liam Kroger returning to the controls for them at quarterback after Malik. I don't know why I want to say Malik. I feel like that's wrong. Is it Malik Philippek? Merrick Philippek, my apologies. Committing and going off to the University of Ottawa. Liam Kroger will be the unquestioned #1 this season after both players shared snaps last season. So they will have a familiar face, will be strong at quarterback, should be a pretty tough offense to stop. And then defensively, I think they're probably arguably better on that side of the ball. As you heard Gerren say that he's tired of going against that side of the football at practice, and with Coach Shane Beatty on that side of the ball, BCFC veteran, getting them up to standard, and I would imagine they're going to be playing at a high level. Not week 4 or 5 to end the season. They'll be playing at a high level from the jump. Coach Beatty will have them ready to go, as well as just a standard culture and foundation that's been established there by Coach Miller. So when talking about the Rams, they obviously have a new kind of foundation to be created here with Coach Barron taking over. Cole Barron stepping into the head coaching role just 3 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, after retiring, I guess, or his career ended with the Langley Rams in 2022. He steps into the head coaching role in 2025 after Coach McCarty steps away. And actually, it'll be funny. This will be a return of Coach McCarty, as he is with the Okanagan Sun staff. So he will be returning to Langley, returning to play the Langley Rams, returning to McLeod Athletic Park. But the Langley Rams, I think there is some optimism with Cole Barron, a young, energetic head coach, where we've kind of seen this model right now in the past. I think Coach Vancanet in Kamloops was kind of the first model. Then we saw Coach Sean Arabsky and the fabulous work that he did last season with the Vancouver Island Runners, turning them around as a young head coach. I think the Langley Rams probably feel similar, right? Of being able to trust Cole that, maybe this isn't a 1-year plan or bust. This is a 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan to build with Cole and behind Cole, give him everything that he needs to kind of grow his program, go his standard and stuff like that into a championship contender and stuff like that. That being said, I wouldn't count out Langley to be right in the thick of things this year. Very competitive team on a year-to-year basis, always bringing in some of the best recruits in the Lower Mainland, if not the BC area as a whole. Just with the reach, them of course being in the Lower Mainland, as well. They will be definitely ready to go come this season. Gob Dang as well, former University of Calgary receiver, a player absolutely to watch, to keep an eye out, a absolute special athlete when playing at a high, when playing to his, excuse me, folks, when playing to his capabilities. Gob Dang could be the best receiver in the BCFC and the CJFL this season. And yes, that is saying with Colton Meikle as well in the conference. Colton Meikle, by far, right now, going into the season, is the best receiver in the CJFL. That's not to be questioned right now, but I think by season's end, if Gob Dang was to have the season that he is capable of, play to the level that he could be the best receiver in the CJFL. That's how talented he is. That's how special he was when he was at the University of Calgary as well. So I think offensively, Bruce Jones is another one that Coach Barron was quick to mention to not sleep on, forget about, because he was a near 1,000-yard back last season for them, and will definitely be a focal point in the offense. And they should be led heavily once again by their offensive line, and should spearhead that offense and being able to give the quarterback some time. And when speaking about the quarterback, that's going to be a question mark, right? They are in a little bit of a quarterback battle right now in camp. Coach Barron kept his cards pretty close to the vest, didn't want to say too much, didn't want to lean either way when talking about that quarterback matchup. But this should be an interesting one. Not wanting to spend too much more time on this one. Our weekly picks will be coming out with Wizard Takes, BCFC Updater, as well as Peak Photography on a weekly basis, where we'll be giving our weekly picks throughout the BCFC, which will be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. Don't want to give those right now. I will give a little teaser to stay tuned, though, where we're heading on that one. When talking about the next one, the Westshore Rebels taking the trip up to Prince George. This is going to be another coaching debut for one Connor Bryan for the Westshore Rebels, stepping into his debut as a head coach, as this will be the, I believe, fourth head coach in 4 seasons for the Westshore Rebels. It could be 3 in 3 seasons, but I believe it's 4 in 4 seasons. So Coach Bryan trying to bring in some stability, which I think he will be able to, especially with a big-time recruit like quarterback Gavin Sessions coming up from, I believe it's the Houston, Texas area. Definitely have high expectations for him at quarterback this season. Could be potentially in the conversation for being the best quarterback in the conference this year, right? And I think you look at last season with Skyler Smith moving on and not returning to the Raiders, that tag, that label as best quarterback in the conference is up for debate right now. I think a guy, as I mentioned, like Gavin Sessions, is going to be up for debate, and I'm sure we'll have that conversation multiple times on this program and show throughout the season. But a guy to keep an eye on for sure is Gavin Sessions at the quarterback position for the Westshore Rebels. Another one, of course, playmakers Zion Brown. Arguably another one of guys that, if he plays to his capability, plays to his ceiling, could be one of the best playmakers in the country, one of the best players in the CJFL, not only in the conference, but one of the best players in the entire CJFL. A guy to keep an eye on, a very exciting playmaker for the Westshore Rebels. He does multiple things and is a very dynamic athlete for the Westshore Rebels, doing multiple things for them. Defensively, I think they're going to be pretty athletic, pretty interested to see how Coach Gandire kind of gives his imprint, his influence on the defense. Coach Gandire spending some time with the Westshore Rebels, moved on to the Regina Rams, and then returning to the Westshore Rebels program this offseason to take over as that defensive coordinator tag, which should go a long way into helping Coach Bryan kind of establish that culture. I know there's some other guys there that I played against, Coach Bryan played with, that are going to kind of try to come into similar with what the Langley Rams are doing, of that young coaching staff, young culture, to connect with some of the younger minds and kind of trying to build in the right direction. I think Westshore is going to be a pretty good team this year once again, just because they're also built pretty well in the trenches. And I think that'll go a long way to helping them win some ball games this season. When talking about the Prince George Kodiaks, it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on them. Players to watch. Sortison at quarterback was definitely amongst the top tier of quarterbacks last season, throwing to guys like Carson Briere, who's a talented receiver across the conference. I think he's also taking steps forward. He's also getting better on a year-to-year basis. So as a couple guys to keep an eye on from a Kodak's standpoint. Defensively, it'll be interesting to see how they are able to flourish again. Last year, I thought they had some moments where they put together some good games, some good quarters, good halves, stuff like that. Probably need to have a little bit more consistency in there. But Prince George, I think they're going to sleep on some. They're going to be slept on, and teams are going to sleep on them, is what I'm trying to say. going into the season. I think they're going to have some talent. It's going to be, can you win some of those close games? Can you win those one-score games late in the fourth quarter, which they were in some of those games last season, right? And I think being in some of those games, hopefully they can lean on their experience from last season and grow from it and get better and come out on the better side from some of those losses last season. And they also return a very veteran group. I want to say about 20 of 24 starters or something like that return around that mark anyway. So going to be a veteran group, going to kind of understand the standard that Coach Jamie Borum has set for them, and they're going to be able to hit the ground from day one. It'll be interesting to see that matchup with the Valley Huskers in week number 1, who comes away with that one. I know where I'm kind of leaning opposed to or when talking about picks, but I think this is going to be a very competitive game and will be an exciting one to keep an eye on this Saturday night. So when talking about the last game of the week, the Vancouver Island Raiders traveling up to the Kamloops Broncos. Talking about the Vancouver Island Raiders, the question marks are going to be, how big of a step forward did the Raiders take this offseason? They were very active in recruiting, were in a lot of the headlines this offseason, rightfully so. But how much of a step forward did they take on the field? It's one thing on paper, to bring in all these recruits and stuff like that, but how much better did they get on the field? Which I do think they did get better on the field. I think, obviously, as I mentioned, Skylar Smith not coming back does hurt them in ways, but in ways they also have upgraded the position, right? Of getting 2 legit starting caliber quarterbacks in their program, so that if injuries happen like last year where they went down, Skylar Smith went down during the middle part of the season, they went through a dip, right? And now this year they have a true number 1 in Braden Jupe coming back from University of York, but they also have this young rookie who's pushing Braden Jupe legitimately in this quarterback competition, who hasn't been named a starter yet in either Jupe or GoLab. Each quarterback's going out to practice a few times, have looked very, good, confident in their abilities. The first practice I went to during their main camp 2 weekends ago, both quarterbacks were playing at a very high level in their scally periods and team periods, and were slinging it around the field, and we're doing a good job against a great defense. And yes, I do not say a good defense. I think this is arguably going to be the best defense in the conference. I know Okanagan's up there, folks. I definitely agree that Okanagan should be leading that conversation, or should be in that conversation or leading it. The Raiders should definitely be in that conversation when it comes to at least their back 8. Their back 8 is very talented when it comes to their starting 3 linebackers at Will, Mike, and Sam. At Caleb Charlton, going to be a good player for them once again. Colton Finstad in the middle, and then Max Shipham, a guy that's going to be a player to watch throughout the conference, a new face of the BCFC, but one to keep an eye on. Of course, Felice Toscano locking down his boundary corner spot once again. And then Israel Waitman, a player from Colorado coming up for the Raiders, a name to pay attention to for sure. That safety position, he's going to be quite the player. And then they've added, Aiden Bytel, Kaya Saunders in the secondary, Sterling Henry, amongst a few other names that are going to be pretty good players for them this season. And I think, as I said, when talking about the Kamloops Broncos side of things, what can Coach Vanke kind of generate here now into, I believe, year 4 or 5 now as head coach, as his standard's been set, right? And I think they're going to be able to have a little bit more, I think, positivity this upcoming season. But it's just how much more positivity can they have as a Kamloops Broncos, right? I think the most positivity, right, is obviously receiver Colton Meikle is unquestioned number 1 receiver in the CJFL going into the season. How can they really build around him? How can they, lean on him as that true number 1, but not get the most out of it, right? Of not kind of just basically Meikle or bust, being able to utilize. Last year, right, they did it with Caleb Sens, right? And Caleb Sens was a phenomenal wide receiver 2, an option number 2 in the offense, where you couldn't just focus on taking away Meikle because you had a guy like Caleb Sens to be a threat downfield. And I think that's what they're going to be looking for this upcoming season for the Kamloops Broncos, as well as I know they have some, questions that need to be answered at quarterback. I know they're possibly in a competition right now and answering those questions with a second-year guy, some rookies that are in that competition as well. But stay tuned because I think Kamloops will be a little bit better than they were last season, but it's just how much better, how big of a step can they take forward in those few bottom teams, right? Of VI in fifth, Prince George in sixth, Kamloops in seventh. Can those guys crack the top four? Can they take a step forward to be in those top four teams, get into a playoff spot, even push those top four teams, for a playoff spot? So interested to see this matchup as well. One last thing about the Raiders, I think offensively, they have a pretty talented skill position, pool to pull from when it comes to, maybe took a hit in terms of the running back depth that maybe they would have liked to have going into the season. But Ronde Lyle, one of the more underrated, probably the biggest sleeper at running back going into the season across the conference, maybe even across the CJFL this season. Ronde Lyle, a very capable number one running back. But when you look at the skill position players as well, with Ruben Bonzu and Blaze and Parker, Parker being another guy to keep an eye on, who I think legitimately has CFL potential with his size, his skill. I think he needs to develop a little bit more and kind of buy in a little bit more to maybe what CFL team would ask him in terms of special teams ability, etc. But Parker Moskrip is a guy to keep an eye on. Very talented individual, as well as just brings that size with him as well. But as I mentioned with Harm and Parker and Blaze, multiple guys in that receiving core that are going to be able to step up and fill in a big time role, and probably needing to step up to fill the production left behind by 50 receiver last year, Paul Romanoff. Going to be missing him, but as I mentioned, are going to be suited to one guy I should mention, Jacob Celso, rookie, that could be stepping into that role and probably going to be named to keep an eye on, whether it's in that receiving in that starting five receiving core, or as a returner for the Raiders. He's going to be a dangerous weapon on the field for the Raiders this season. So, folks, hour two inside the BCFC, episode number 1 for week numero 1 across the BCFC. Ton of fun today's episode was. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every time we go live or upload a video like this one. Of course, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms at Canadian Football Fanatics, as well as on Twitter at @_CF Fanatics over there as well. Lastly, head over to millions.com website, type in Canadian Football Fanatics. You guys will be able to find all of our content over there, as well as checking out some of our merchandise store that's up over there. We can purchase a hoodie and or t-shirt, which would go a long way to supporting us, growing our channel. Also, being a friend, telling a friend you're going out on the town, you're wearing a Canadian Football Fanatics shirt. It might start a conversation, might get a Canadian Football Fanatic aware of what we're doing here on a weekly basis of, hey, what's that t-shirt? Oh, it's the Canadian Football Fanatics. What do they do? Oh, they talk about Canadian football on a weekly basis. And just like that, you grew us another follower, another fan, another subscriber, and it helps us out a ton. So head over to Millions. You guys can find our store up there, as well as our merchandise. Take a look at that. And our content is up over there as well. So as I said, today was a ton of fun. This will be a weekly routine, hopefully not quite in hour 3, but today's episode just kind of wanting to get a little introduction, all that sort of stuff. Not too surprised it went a little bit over time. But that being said, as I said before, our coaches poll just dropped. We actually got a collaboration with the CJFL as well as the BCFC, so you guys can find it on their platforms as well as ours. But where we polled each head coach, where they gave us their rankings of the conference 1 through 7. We compiled that into a point system, and then compiled that into a power rankings, put that out in a coaches poll ranking that is doing pretty well right now on social media. So go check that out on Canadian Football Fanatics Instagram account. Lastly, as I mentioned, comment down below. Let us know what type of content, what other type of content you guys would like to see here on a weekly basis. Obviously, don't comment a paragraph or comment too much down below, because we already have our workload with the BC Lions. We have this, so we only have so many days. We only have so many hours in the day. We only have so many days in the week. So kind of wanting to have maybe another project or two to add to our workload throughout the season. Let us know in the comments down below. Tag us on social media if you guys would like to see some stuff, as well as tag in the BCFC what you guys would like to see with our partnership. Officially announcing, hopefully in the coming days where we'll have a graphic out and stuff like that, make it official on social media, all that sort of good stuff. So we've done it, folks. The off season is over. We have British Columbia Football Conference football to not only talk about, but to watch this upcoming Saturday. So my last reminder before we get out of here, get out to Langley at McLeod Athletic Park on Saturday, 4 o'clock kickoff for the Okanagan Sun taking on the Langley Rams. Get out to Prince George to see the Westshore Rebels travel up to Prince George to take on the Kodiaks. And lastly, get out to beautiful Hillside Stadium up in Kamloops to watch the Vancouver Island Raiders take on the Kamloops Broncos. And lastly, and most not importantly, lastly, and we can't forget, the Valley Huskers are on a week 1 bye. So Coach Reese, everybody else up there in the Valley, wishing you guys the best of luck on your bye week. Hoping you guys hit the ground running in week number 2, I believe, taking on the Langley Rams, if I'm not mistaken, in week number 2. But we will save that for Inside the BCFC, episode number 2. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. As I mentioned, liking the video, commenting down below. Most importantly, subscribing to the channel. When you guys subscribe, press the notification bell. You guys get notified every single time we go live or uploading a video. But subscribing to the channel is the best way to help us out, the best way to grow our channel, the best way to let people know what we're doing here on the channel. And a close second to that is liking the video to get our engagement out there, get our video, our content out there in the algorithm, in the YouTube algorithm. For us to all the fanatics out there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 1 of Inside the BCFC, and we will see you guys next week for episode number 2.